Look at this. I got headphones on. I got a mic going. Baby.
If
Huh?
only people could see you now.
Hey, no video. We've gone through this before.
All right,
No
all right,
video.
all right. Welcome to This Commerce Life. This is a podcast aimed at small, medium entrepreneurs focused on commerce. I'm Phil, your host, and Kenny, your co-host, will join us as well. And we're going to talk to you about the world of retail and commerce and how things are changing in the world.
Where did I put my coffee? Coffee machine wasn't on, so it takes like a minute for it to prime the pump.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a little slow. Sorry, guys.
It's all good.
But just so you guys both realize that this cup of coffee was definitively more important than both of you because I had to replace. Just in case you weren't too sure, I'm going to set the story straight.
No,
That's the story.
It is all right. Coffee is
first.
Coffee is important.
Yeah.
If it wasn't 10 p.m. here, you'd have stoked me into getting to get a coffee too. But it's just
when do you stop drinking coffee?
The last time I'll have an espresso is usually like 10-ish.
Yeah. Okay.
But I got to be in bed. Like if I'm not in bed in the next 4 hours or so, then it's like I'm toast. It's done.
Yeah, but you're gonna be. That's got nothing to do with the coffee. That you've missed it.
No, I think that's the coffee.
Come on.
Yeah.
Don't blame
So, anyway.
Coffee always gets blamed. Don't blame the coffee. Hey, Bram, how are you, man?
I'm good.
This is how we start all shows.
I,
Unfortunately, you're going to walk into this mess.
No, I was just telling Phil before you got on, I've been listening to a few of your episodes. I love the banter the two of you guys have, so I'm excited to be a part of that and figure out how I fit in.
Just go with the flow. There's no plan here, man. You can tell how we treat our guests. You can coffee first.
Yeah. I was saying you guys are good character foils for one another. I like it's great. So excited to share what I'm working on and have a good chat. It'll be great.
I'm excited to see this because I opened up and I didn't prep because we have to stay by some basic rules that we don't prep. But I did open up the link and I went to take a look at the web page. I even sent it to Mark.
Yeah.
And I showed it to Chloe, Phil. Not for any reason.
Yeah.
I just thought, this looks pretty.
It's pretty cool.
I don't know, man. This looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm dying to see what this thing actually does or what it's all about. But just that little bit. And I thought, oh man, this looks
I think
sick.
I sent that to you guys, right? Because I think Shelfgram had.
I just pulled it off the email that the three of us had talked about.
Yeah, because I think Shelfgram. No, but Shelfgram had some shots of Emergency on shelf a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, that's what that was from.
That's what that was from. Yeah, and that was me going, guys, you got to check this out. Like this is,
Yeah,
Cool.
I saw that part, but I don't read the whole thing. Right? It's the high level tidbit. That's all I got. Oh, geez. Even I've set the bar so low. I mean, I got to change the way I do things. I got to set the bar a little higher.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So we've got Bram on. Bram is probably one of the smartest dudes I know.
You know a lot of smart people. Jeez.
I'm not joking. Like Bram is, with all due respect, I think Bram's still 18, maybe younger.
I can't see, but Bram really does look like he's about 14.
So when I met Bram must have been like 12 or something like that. He was a brand manager at J&J. He was already a brilliant career at J&J. Everybody kind of loved and respected him. He then proceeds to tell me about this idea he has. He says, listen, graphics take such a long time. It seems to be this process. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks for graphic houses to get us stuff back, or agencies. What if we just put out like this call to people, and have people kind of like jump in on jobs, right? Like freelancers of all sorts and, that sort of thing. And this was, I think, like, I want to say like 2010-ish, 2009-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he says, that's the concept is if I put this job out there, people can jump in and say, I can do that. I can do it for X number of dollars, and then he proceeds to build himself. I'm going to get it wrong, but I think it's like E-Lancer, something.
Yeah.
Something
It was, company was called Five Crowd, but it was based on, like a lot of successful freelance platforms at the time.
Yeah. So he builds one of these things, as a part-time gig while he's doing, the brand job at J&J, which most people struggle to do full time, right? So that's how I met Bram. I'm gonna let him fill in the middle details, but I'm super excited to have him on because I think Bram and I recently reconnected because he's working on something called Shelfgram, which I think a lot of our listeners are going to be super interested in hearing about. So welcome. We're really glad to have you. So
I'm super excited because I'm with Phil.
Yeah.
I actually I think people are going to be pretty interested in this.
Cool. Yeah. So Phil, you want me to kind of fill in the gaps
jump in, man.
after you're
Jump in,
yeah. So I ended up leaving the packaged goods world to start a company, and we were a freelance platform. We competed with like the Mad Men, Madison Avenue creative agencies, but we just did all the like unsexy, non-strategic, non-creative work that nobody wanted to do, and we did it faster and cheaper than anybody else because we had built out this freelance platform. So we had like really talented folks in 150 cities around the world, every day logging into the platform, doing work for brands like Budweiser, Microsoft, or Uber, Hershey, Twitter, and a big long list of other corporate clients. And it was really fun, especially because we had a huge social impact. So there were a lot of people, that are like just as talented as the three of us, but just grew up in the wrong place or have a physical disability or suck at office politics or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And they could kind of say, okay, well, screw that. I'm going to telecommute from my kitchen. And, now we're all working remotely. So it's like even more common and render your services for a big company. So we bootstrapped the business, kind of got it going. And then after about 2.5 years, the company was actually acquired by SGS Co., which is owned by the guys at Onyx. So I was kind of in the private equity world for a bit and decided that I was going to learn how to code because I've always wanted to do that. I met this amazing engineer and I just paid him to be my tutor. So every day for 6 months, I'd buy him dinner. He would teach me how to code. And after about half a year, I could code. And then I kind of decided that there was this other problem I had back when I was a brand manager and I wanted to solve that. So now I'm building the second company.
There you go.
Right?
Go. At 12 years old, eh?
I don't know if you guys can see on Zoom, but there's definitely some facial hair like over here.
Nope.
Okay, if you want to have facial hair, sure. He's 14. That's all good.
Yeah. Gotta get my driver's license out here.
Don't rush it. You got lots of time.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Got a whole world ahead of you there, young man. It's all good.
So tell us about this new problem. So so it's called Shelfgram, right? I think it's really cool.
Yeah,
but
it's kind of a mix of like Instagram, Planogram, and the Shelf. And I think one of our customers describes this as like a Nielsen meets Pinterest, and I think that's a better explanation than whatever I'm going to tell you guys. But basically, the whole idea goes back to my time in brand management and packaged goods. Every senior leader always told me, you got to do store checks. They're super important. It's the only way to understand the ground truth of what's happening on your business. And I would notice, Phil, like when our most senior global president would come to town and like the once a year annual visit and everyone's freaking out, that person would spend half their time doing store checks and their time was at such a premium. But the challenge I had is mostly I was stuck at the office. I never did them as often as I probably should. And anytime I did a store check, it was just the same two locations that happened to be around the corner from wherever my office was. But basically outside of that, I had no idea what was going on in my business. Like all of Quebec, Western Canada, any rural community, no visibility. And then of course the challenge is, you kind of go from desk to desk and getting up to speed on new businesses it's already hard, but to not be able to see what happened last year in a season, you can only ever do a store check at a point in time like today. And then the final piece is that, I was working on mostly global businesses and I had counterparts around the world and kind of thought like, wouldn't it be cool to see what they were doing in an easier way? I found out that per capita consumption on the category I was working on was like the highest in Germany. I thought, well, what if I could do a store check in Germany? Like, what would I find? Because anytime I did them, I'd come away with great insights. So I sort of had what a friend describes as like a millennial epiphany of, instead of me having to do these store checks, they should just come to me digitally. I should just be able to like fly back in time, fly around the world, get everything at my fingertips. Maybe I'd find a bunch of insights nobody knows, and then I could use that to grow my business. So that's what we're building. We're kind of building like a God view superpower thing for brick and mortar retail to be able to like fly around and do a virtual store check across like 700 stores in the time it would take you to like get in your car and go to one.
Shit. Wow.
It's pretty cool, right?
Wow. That's, yeah.
Yeah.
To say, I'd love to see how this thing actually does what it does.
Yeah, I mean, I can show you guys a demo if you want now. I don't know how that'll translate on the podcast, but it's free to sign up. So
I guess we could talk our way through it. It'd be kind of curious to see how it sort of moves around, or what the whole premise is. Like, how do you get started? What do you do?
Yeah. The first question people usually have when I show them is like, where are all these photos coming from?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of just like a never-ending, infinite scrolling feed of pictures from the world of retail, but it's every category, every channel, every retailer, every country. So we started as kind of a social media listening platform similar to Hootsuite. And when consumers post stuff publicly, in some cases, our technology can grab that. Actually, one of the kind of unintuitive insights about the business is a lot of people do this. People like walk into a grocery store, take a picture of a shelf and just share it online. You'd be kind of surprised. Usually they have a really positive experience, like a new brand is launching, or a negative experience, like out of stocks, and they want to share that.
A huge one. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, if it's something that you'll share with your friends, it's probably something that someone in the industry would want to see. And then the second source of photos is our own mobile app. So we have a lot of shopper marketing people that will download the app and use it. The reason they do it is that we host all the photos for free in the cloud. We tag them with our AI, which I can speak to, and it's kind of shared with everybody. So, you know, if I'm doing store checks, Phil's doing them, Kenny's doing them, now we can all see at least 3 times what we could normally see. And then what we found when we launched, some of our beta companies ended up with like pretty good coverage, but sometimes there were gaps. And like rural areas is a common gap, where between their field sales team and just where people are, they weren't getting enough photos. So we partnered with a handful of crowdsourcing companies, and you can now order photos that you're looking for through our platform. And then, you know, someone would actually, a mystery shopper or like a cashback couponer would get an offer, and then the pictures come back onto the platform.
So that's it. So the real community would then participate in a sense. You just incent them a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's not necessarily a bad way.
Yeah.
So as you're listening to this, if you want to go and just kind of like visualize this, you can go to Shelfgram, so SHELFCRGRAM.com, Shelfgram.com, and sign in. It takes, I think it took me like 30 seconds to sign in, maybe. You know, you can sign up with LinkedIn if you want, however you want to do that, but it's really great. And then it really does, like, to bring some picture to it, it really looks like Instagram, except they're all product shelves, right? Like a lot of them are displays.
Like the most boring Instagram, eh?
Not if you're in retail, right? In retail, you're all going like, holy crap,
the three
right?
of us are pretty excited about this thing, so it's not.
Yeah.
No. I mean, like, I love being with fellow retail nerds, because like my girlfriend's parents are like, so you're collecting pictures of grocery store shelves, and this is valuable to people.
I think this is what my daughter picked. Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you go onto the site, Phil, what are you doing? You just type in.
So you can, I mean, as soon as you sign in, like, so I signed in and I get to see, like, somebody's clearly been to Walmart or Target, and somebody's blitzed like everything Target, because all I get is Target displays, and but it's everything. It's like there's beverage aisles here, there's chip aisles, there's snack aisles.
You're gonna make me sign on, you know that,
dude. It's honestly, like, I think the first time Bram showed it to me, I was so distracted for the first 15 minutes, because all I kept doing was tripping over pictures of displays that I wanted to look at. Definitely,
it's pretty hard to demo it. Like, I was trying to demo this last month to a brand manager, and she paused midway as I was scrolling. I was like, wait, scroll up, click on that photo. I'm like, okay, I don't see anything in this. What's going on? She's shit, that's my old packaging. I have a supply chain issue. Can you send that to me? I got to go. I'm like, okay, cool.
Like, stop typing something. They picked up their phone because they're like, I just saw this end app out of stock. What the hell's going on, right? Like, I can totally see that happening. So it's, but it's really cool. Like, you can search a bunch of stuff on here too. So I was on here looking for, different
Antique
product,
shops, no?
and I don't know if I haven't really looked for antique stuff, but I've definitely been in like, food, drug, mass, looking around. But I'm sorry,
Antique
Bram,
shops.
I keep cutting you off,
No,
but
I think
I'm excited about
you can go to the directory and see
Comic
how we've
shops.
organized things. Yeah, but
Come on.
I think as marketers, like I would always beeline to the one category and one channel that was important to me, and I never saw what other like tier one marketers were doing in beverage alcohol or cosmetics. But like maybe there's a really cool transferable insight that's cross category, cross channel, or cross market, and you can kind of discover that. But it's still mentioned, the way to log in is with LinkedIn. It's actually, we're kind of a weird platform because you can't even log in with an email and password on the free plan. You have to log in with LinkedIn.
Honestly, no,
kind of
to tell you the truth, I got excited as soon as I saw LinkedIn, because I'm on, like now I'm Phil, now we're both ADD because, heaven forbid we pay attention to the guest. Now I'm just looking at pictures. And I've gone to bookstores, hobby shops. I think I'm going to search the world to see what I can buy. I'm going to look for these little nuggets of cool shit and think, oh, I got to get there.
We lost Kenny. Kenny's like, screw the business. I'm out to do
this
my
is
own
pretty
thing.
cool.
He's sucked in.
So I really think this is pretty slick. So can I search? So if I typed in, search for retailers, brands, categories, tags, and more.
So put in like Loblaws as an example. And there's a lot of different ways to kind of slice and dice the data. You can look at things at a kind of state or province level, city level, and individual location. And we're adding new features all the time just based on kind of what we're hearing from the community and what people are looking for.
No, I just typed in crackers, not for any reason. I just wanted to see. Comes up, it tells you what a cracker is. It tells you the major players, which is Ritz in the situation. Number of photos, 72.
Yeah, so what's really ambitious about what we're trying to do is that we're not focused on any one region, category, or channel. We're trying to build kind of like a general solution to be able to see like everything. The digital world's like pretty well indexed now, but the physical world is like a much harder problem.
But what a cool way to see what others are doing.
Yeah, Kenny, if you go to the collections, you can see a whole bunch of kind of themed folders that are curated by different Shelfgram users. We've got a COVID collection that's been really popular, or, at shelf communication, like you might not normally care about soup or, I don't know, crackers.
But I can get excited about anything, trust me.
But like to be able to see like what other people do with the same, communication real estate can be interesting. So there's a lot of learning.
Look at that, icons in store. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think.
There's a lot of really neat.
You guys were both buyers at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is, in addition to competitive intelligence, the top use case seems to actually be just sales support for buyer meetings. I've been to enough where probably if I showed up, my competitors showed up with conflicting data, or you've already seen the data, or you're just not impressed. But there's something that's kind of like irrefutable, authentic, and empathetic about a photo because like a real shopper experienced it. So we're finding the CPG companies like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? So I did what you said. So I'm in collections. I'm just partnering around collections from the community. I clicked on most popular. Creamer audit comes up in the top left. 213 pictures. So do these picture amounts, I'm assuming, will grow in time, not grow in time? Do they change based on, amount of clicks people look at? So if something's not ever looked at, does it bounce off this or?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a popularity algorithm already running. And so if you just go to the main feed as an example and hit the filter and sort by popular, you can just see like in general, what is the most popular thing currently that people within the retail world are looking at. So the goal is in the same way when you jump on Instagram and, it's got like your best friend and maybe like a girl you have a crush on. It just kind of knows what you're interested in. We want Shelfgram to kind of do the same thing where ideally you pop on and just see based on your browsing history and everything, like the most relevant stuff for you, because it is kind of like a fire hose. But yeah, in terms of the number of photos, it's growing every day. The business model is basically, we've got a pretty generous free plan where you can just kind of see whatever's on there, but it's a bit hit and miss is what you're seeing. And then the way that we've monetized is we went to industry. One thing we got wrong is we thought we were just going to institutionalize store execution for everybody in a big, happy, giant network. And what companies kind of told us is this is super cool because either we don't have a platform or we're using like SharePoint for this, but we don't want our competitors seeing the pictures that we're taking. So can we have a private space? And that's what we do. So we can spin up these like private collections, and you can be in however many collections and then get access to more photos that way.
Right.
You can
Really
see that though.
interesting.
What's really nice about it too, it's the immediate comfort level, because it quite frankly really does feel like a Pinterest Instagram feel. Like it's got so intuitively it's really, I mean, it's mindless. I mean, I can do this. I know we laugh at that, but Phil laughs and tries to make me sound smarter than I am. I can do tech and I like using it, but I've got no patience. Like something's got to be super intuitive and fast. Otherwise I'm going to lose interest. I'm not Phil or my wife who's going to spend 6 years trying to figure it out. I don't give a shit. Fast.
Totally.
I could totally use this.
Usability is definitely the thing that has been most important. In fact, I'll even talk with people and they'll ask me, okay, so what's different about the platform? And what they want to hear is we have some crazy new big data AI thing. And when I tell them, it's just really good usability. Some people are like, wait, that's it? But it's huge. If people don't use it, like every single broker has a portal that they give to the CPG companies, but nobody logs into it, right? Because it's like archaic.
Because they're terrible.
Because it's all shit.
Yeah.
They're all built in the 1970s. Like that's the problem, right?
And
like
people had no freaking clue what anybody else was looking for.
Yeah. What we find is like, because people are using it the way that we've been growing, basically every user metric is doubling every 30 days. And what's driving that is that people go on, they find something, they share it with their friends see it, what's this, they sign up, and it kind of goes from there. And even within companies, when we deploy, we're working with one CPG company now that is already using it in like 19 countries. And what happened is the Canadian team got on board, and then someone in the US is like, telling me if I log into this, I can see what's happening in Canada. Okay, sure, I'll try that. And then it kind of goes from there.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Right? Like that's what you want. That's really, they're like entire global institutions. That's all they do. Right? Half their job is just sharing pictures country to country, right? So
well, you're right. Wow.
Including the one that we used to work for.
That's right.
I'm sure they were notorious.
Yeah.
We're starting to see even some of those like case studies come in that are global in nature. Probably the most exciting one is there's a pending planogram change at a major retailer here that started by them kind of challenging a company saying, hey, you guys are experts in this. Can you come to us with like a new solution? Yeah. And they actually found an example, because it's a global retailer, of them doing that like in a different way in another market. And they got in touch with their local team and found out, okay, how many facings are there? What are the relative price points? What's been the financial performance? And then they went to the retailer and said, so here's what you guys are already doing, but in another market. And we can get, all the specs and it's ready to go. And it was such a tight recommendation that nobody would have known, right?
Wow. That's fantastic. That's really fantastic. Oh my gosh. And then, sorry, I'm so distracted.
Well, that's because you told me to sign on. Now I'm like you, and now I'm distracted too.
No, but you also have.
You guys both need to log out. That's when you tap in, or I'll drop off.
Bram is like, oh my God, like we should have done this.
Okay, yeah, let's sign off. I'll sign off because
I do. But
I have no self-control.
There's also like, so you can go to the website, or you can upload the app. And then you can do all the same things on the app, but that's how you also contribute, right? Because we have a lot of people who are retail folks. And so, if I happen to be at a store and I'm taking pictures, I can upload them to Shelfgram. So for public consumption, but also like if I want to be able to show Kenny a planogram rather than show him with like, 10 photos, I can now take them, upload them to Shelfgram, and then share the link with him, or share, tell him, hey, I posted to Shelfgram, just go there and find it, right?
Yeah, and there's a couple of reasons why you might want to do that. So this way Kenny doesn't need to ask you, okay, well, when and where were these taken, right? Like what's in the photo, all that. But when we launched, we thought that the mobile app would really just be for uploading, and it's actually been a surprise. We noticed in the analytics, people like open up the mobile app, they navigate around, and then they close it. And we're like, what is this behavior? And then what we realized is they were looking to try to find the photos that everyone else was posting. So we started to add in a lot more of that functionality, and there's more on the roadmap. But yeah, the other reasons to upload, right, is I remember being in CPG, and my phone was basically, it was just like pictures of displays and planograms, and then like a dog and my friend, and then more pictures of displays. And this is like everybody's phone, and there's like thousands of pictures. I was chatting with one CMO at a CPG company, and he was telling me he actually has the opposite problem, where his phone syncs with his Apple TV, and his wife's always on his case because they've got a slideshow going on the TV, and there'll be like pictures of the kids' first day of school, picture from the ski trip, planogram of mustard. Yeah, it's, like, get that stuff out of here.
Stuff you really need to see.
Our mobile app automatically moves the photos into a different folder on your phone called Shelfgram, in addition to uploading it to the cloud. And we'll automatically figure out the location for you based on the location services in the camera.
Oh, nice.
You know what's even nice about that is I can get them all. I forget even the fact that you're moving to another place is fantastic, but the fact is I can get them off my phone now.
Yeah, it's like you just
the
delete
problem
the
with it
album
before is you know what it's like. You keep them because you might have emailed it, but you know that someone's not going to read the email, and they're going to forget where the picture is, or you know, and you're holding pictures sometimes a
long time.
It's what your wife said. You know, it's you know, display, dog, cat, kids. Okay, dog, cat, kids can stay on the phone. Displays do not need to stay on the phone. Like there's those should leave so they don't lose.
And then you know, when you leave your company at some point in that moment, that company's kind of lost the opportunity to institutionalize that information into the corporate memory. But of course, with Shelfgram, they keep it, right?
Yeah. This is super cool. Yeah. So, let's talk about the other side for a minute. So you've got this wonderful, cool app. People are using it. So who kind of like, what's your customer base? So obviously there are brands in here, and then there are some retailers in here. Like what kind of,
who's signing up for this? Like who's doing it? Who's using it?
So basically we launched like a virtual store check capability as soon as the pandemic started. It was like crazy timing. And we had like a few hundred people sign up in our first week, all like shopper marketing, trade marketing people, because nobody could do store checks. A lot of the retailers like kicked out anyone that was in stores, saying like, we've got capacity limitations, like get out. And companies didn't want to send people in, and people also didn't want to go. So literally there was like no way to get this information. And openly, it kind of broke a bunch of our systems. Like we experienced every scale issue that a startup would have, like all in the first couple of weeks.
That's amazing.
It was good.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was good learning.
Yeah.
It was bad. You know, it was like as soon as the pandemic hit and my personal life was turned upside down, I'm like also up until 3 a.m. trying to fix servers and stuff. But anyway, it was a really good learning experience, and we identified all the issues, and now the platform can really scale. So it was awesome. But really that was kind of the catalyst for the initial growth. And then we've been surprised, and we're learning, like QSR has been an interesting opportunity for us because in addition to now all this COVID compliance, there's like food and safety compliance, and it's harder to get visibility into what your competitors are doing because you can't go to the same store and see them. We've also seen a lot of traction with companies that have like high seasonal exposure. So what I've started to learn is that they kind of have all the same problems that normal CPG has, but it's more acute because there isn't even a planogram. It can kind of phase in and out. And sometimes if you don't make, you know, one weekend of the year, you're chasing a number for the rest of the year. So those
like you guys came from J&J Sun Care. You missed that weekend. That's it's not you're not chasing a number. You're getting it back.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a real problem.
Yeah, for sure. So to be able to see last season, or to be able to see what the season was like in Australia, right, which has like a different seasonality to it, those are things that just like have never been possible that are now possible.
So are you finding that your user base then, like if is it the entire, like let's say J&J signs up, are you noticing that all 25 trade marketers are coming on, or is it small pockets? Like, or if you're a company, are companies lining up, say, listen, everybody's on this thing? Sort of what it was like when Facebook started moving fast, and retail or business finally figured out, maybe we should be on this. Okay, everybody needs to be on it. You know, 20 minutes before that, nobody's on this thing, get off the thing. And then everybody get on it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. What we're seeing is that usually kind of one person will sign up, they'll start sharing, and then that's why you also have to log in with LinkedIn. It's that I can call up a J&J or a P&G and say, hey guys, 17 of your employees are using this thing. Like maybe we should chat about getting them on an enterprise plan. Yeah.
Smart.
So it's been like a nice, it's been nice that way. But yeah, that's typically how it works. One of the reasons that I started the business was in just doing a bit of the legwork and talking to people in the industry. I noticed that every CPG had like a hack together Frankenstein version of this platform. So typically what happened is marketing and sales goes to IT and says, hey, we're taking all these pictures. We don't have a good place for them. What can you do? And whether or not they're a Salesforce or Microsoft client, they would just look at the existing software they have access to and they'd say, okay, use SharePoint or use Yammer. And so either the CPG is using that or they don't have anything. And once you give them the tool and they experience it and you don't have to do any of the tagging, it's great. So the problem that you experience with any other kind of intranet system is that, let's say we're all working on Gillette and we upload pictures and I do hashtag Gillette, but I spell it wrong. And then Phil does hashtag Gillette, hashtag display. But, then Kenny, you do the type of display and now nobody can find anything.
Right.
So by us taking care of all that, it's always kind of like easy to navigate and stuff.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to tell you guys about the heat map thing that we just launched, because that's kind of cool. So basically,
I'm looking for the button already. What the?
I thought we were supposed to sign off because we were being distracted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have it up on my screen.
I'm signing back on then. Screw that. You're not listening. I'm not listening either.
No, I'm listening.
Well, Bram's gonna listen, Bram. You're on the show. Just go talk.
Yeah. So we had an interesting call with the folks at Kellogg's, and they were telling us about this technology that they use through 3M called visual attention software. And it's a model that predicts in that first moment of truth, to use like a P&G term, like what does the shopper see? And it can help you identify, how to just improve your retail execution, because, let's say private label changes their strategy to something like checkerboarding, how's that going to impact your brand block and, just product discovery in general. So we trained an artificial intelligence system using a data set of 330,000 images that 250,000 people actually looked at in an eye tracking study. And it's about 92% accurate, which is the same level of accuracy as you achieve in like any small scale eye tracking study, just because of the kind of natural human to human variances. But essentially what it means is that with any photo you upload onto our platform, you're then able to generate a heat map that shows you where shoppers are most likely to look in that kind of first critical moment.
Wow.
So we're seeing some like really cool usage with it. There's actually one buyer that we were talking to who reached out saying that for years she had always kind of like hypothesized that these like placard cards that nobody was looking at them, but she never had any data for it. And you're never going to really make much change. Mm-hmm. So she went in the store, took a whole bunch of pictures, and was able to show that there isn't a lot of attention on this. And now she's at least got a data point to start building kind of the business case. So it's cool, it's new, and we're seeing like really cool usage around it.
So how does the heat map, so you go and you take a whole whack of pictures, and then the software what does the software do? It figures out where, like what shelf people are focused on? Is that kind of what it does? It kind of
overlays like an intensity layer on top of it. So, for example, like faces tend to attract a lot of attention, especially if you can see the eyes, right? Repeating patterns create like a camouflage effect, color intensity, lighting, contrast, all these things have an impact on where people are going to look. Mm-hmm, and so this model is just trained on kind of actual data based on people looking at it, and tries to predict if we were going to put this through an eye tracking study, where would folks end up kind of like looking.
I see. Yeah. That is, look, that is really cool, right? Because I think, the company that we worked for before and many, many other big guys, you kind of develop these studies that are, quasi-scientific, right? And then you basically shape the truth so that you get the planogram that you want, right? But if you're everybody else, like there are no data points, right? Like, how do you,
No.
right? Like, even as buyers, like buyers would just go, I don't like it like that. You know, like, I don't care what your study
Yeah.
says. I don't like it like that. I want it to look like this. You know, you can jam whatever study you want in, but that's the way the planogram is going to go. But you never really know, right? Like you kind of like string together some POS and try and figure out some trends. But this is kind of cool because now you can actually start to figure this stuff out.
Yeah, that trend thing is really where we're going. So at scale, we want to be able to do things like identify, hey, all across Europe 10 years ago, we saw, organic spike. And then 6 months later, we saw it spike in North America. Then it was green, then it was like sustainable, then it was eco-friendly. And then all of a sudden it's plant-based. Like, okay, well, what do we think is going to come? We had a really interesting conversation with someone in skincare M&A out of the US who was saying, could you run a query that says, okay, globally, across every single brand that we own, what skincare brand that we don't own occurs in the most photos with brands we do own, because that could inform distribution synergies. All sorts of kind of cool things that we're just kind of starting to figure out, but at scale, the promise of the platform is amazing.
Too.
It's just about getting there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So many possibilities.
So and it's just trying to figure out what are the ones you really want to hone in on that would really kind of help us or X us when we were in the other worlds.
I have some other. So how do
I'd love
you
to get your advice? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have that question because how do you then, like you've got a monetization strategy and you're starting to, kind of collect some cash based on some of these services you provide, but based on what you've seen, I can kind of see so many other things coming out of this, like even the people who are uploading photos. I wonder if there's correlations in pattern. I don't know how you do this without violating privacy and all those sort of things. So let's just put that aside for a minute. But if I go into the store and I start taking pictures, if I'm a regular consumer, there's a method to my madness, or there's a method to the way I wander through the store. And so the sequence in which I take the pictures also tells you something about, that path you go through store. And so I wonder if that's come up somewhere along the way for you. You know what I mean? Like a shopper marketer, you would discount right away because, while I'm interested in the whole store, I'm really interested in my stuff that could get me fired. So I'm worried about that. But if I'm a consumer and I'm kind of like taking pictures because I'm, I see these guys on I'm like a serial shopper, right? So Red Flag Deals is one of those things I watch. It's this Canadian forum where people talk about deals, and there are some really crazy, amazing people in there who will actually go in and catalog everything that happens in Costco week to week. They'll literally go set to set to set, right? Like they're awesome, right? Like they have no stake in it at all. They just, and I think like, oh my God, like why would you go put yourself through this if you weren't doing this for a living? But they do. And so I wonder if guys like that, like their patterns help you shape something else out of this as well. I don't know.
The data you collect on, think of home scan, right? The challenge we all sort of had with home scan is you weren't too sure what people really did. They said they would bought this and this and that, and that was always the problem. Nielsen always had a hard time selling that to some degree because market track was easy. That's what was scanned. That's what we knew was actually happening. And home scan was, did it really happen? Is the consumer just bullshitting you that they did that or didn't do that? But if you could tie this into sort of like the home scan world and layer the data that you're pulling from home scan, like as a retailer when I was a buyer, but you could do what Phil said and say, okay, listen, because Nielsen, I think at that time was looking at heat mapping and things like that too. But, now add the pictures on top of that. So I don't just, hear what you're saying, where you're buying, but you're showing me your path and you're looking for those adjacencies like some of your companies are saying. If I'm own Tide, I want to know in how many stores is Purcell next to Tide. And in those markets, what does that mean? So if Tide is next to Purcell and Purcell's market share is abnormally high in those markets, then maybe if I'm Procter & Gamble, I'm going to go and say, listen, you know what? Hey, Joe Retailer, I'll pay you not to put Purcell on the shelf next to me or whatever. I don't care.
Planogram study that says, right?
But imagine if you could say, okay, you know what? Show me from last year my top 10 performing stores. Now show me my bottom 10. And just through pattern recognition and business context, like what do they have in common?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. When we do this display with a flag in it and give it an extra linear foot and a bunch of other things, sales are up. Okay, let's just start doing that. But, you know, that is where we're going. Like, I remember I'd write these share reports, you know, looking at Nielsen data, and I'd be like, okay, I was like down 2 points in the GB plus MM channel over the latest 4-week period in Quebec. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'd look for anything that correlated in the data and write that that was the causal reason. So I'd be like, oh, display was down. Okay, we were down because display was down.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, were we? I don't know. Like, you got to go to Quebec, you go to the GB plus MM channel over the latest 4-week period.
Whoever you were telling, did they know? Claim. They didn't know either. So bottom line, the display was down.
Yeah.
Case closed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it made me kind of curious. Is the display down? Is the display up and not signed? Like, what are the other things that are all playing into this thing too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, brokers have tried to do this. Like, brokers would go out, larger brokers would have their merchandisers go out and do the pictures and all that stuff, but never compile it in a nice, it's just a shit show, right? And it would be to do what you're saying. Say, okay, listen, go see if the display is down. And if the display is not down in these stores, we won't show those pictures. Go find it where the display is down so that my argument works. But in some cases, you might find that the display is actually up. It's just not signed. Or maybe it wasn't put where in the spot we suggested. I mean, there's a lot of other things I'm trying to, that my mind's just running, trying to, there's a whole bunch of other applications. I mean, there's sales applications in here, sales teams applications in here. Never mind just brands.
Yeah. Like, even though the brokers kind of never figured this out, like, I think the vision was right, because in every other area of business, you try not to just rely on qualitative data or quant. You try to kind of do the intersection of the two. And then we usually you can learn more from each by applying the other. Right. But when we analyze our business, we really just only have access to good, market level quant data. So that's all we use. And we're trying to kind of be that Nielsen meets Pinterest qual data that helps you understand the quant in a more meaningful way.
I think there's a huge marriage there. Like, especially with that one organization that, whether in Canada you're kind of stuck using it here in retail to some degree. I mean, but it would probably just make home scan that much better, or anybody who's got an internal sort of home scan or whatever you want to call it. That I like Phil's idea, but I'd love to see where someone walks in and how do they actually walk the store? Where do they go and why do like, I think that the things you could glean from it would be just,
but so that kind of leads me to the other part, right? Is this the model you want to be on? Like, is this kind of like SaaS model, if you will, like, so this kind of subscription model and then private ecosystems for brands where you want to go? Or is this kind of the first step and there's kind of a bigger play? I feel like there's a bigger play here. I don't know if you and I talked about this briefly a long time ago, but I mean, I think there's one bigger play. I'm not sure. I'd love to get your feedback on this. But basically, the retailers are, of course, all selling their data to all the different vendors, and they all have now like data portals, and it's getting more and more sophisticated. Mm-hmm. And I know that if I kind of approach them at this stage, I don't have enough. But I guess maybe the bigger play is to go to them at some point and say, hey, a whole bunch of your vendors are like paying us for, visual intelligence from your stores, but don't you think they should just be paying you for that? Like, probably they should. So here's what we're going to do. Let's create a private space that is a very comprehensive view of your stores, including the ones that nobody gets to. And then we're going to capture that data once, but go and license it, 10,000 times to everybody so that they can show up to buyer meetings more prepared, come with new insights, build their business with you. That's one possibility, but there's some interesting kind of political dynamics there. So I don't know, like, what do you guys think of that? Good idea, bad idea?
Political dynamics, how?
Oh, just between, so like, what if the vendors start seeing all sorts of like compliance issues when it comes to execution, and they're showing up to meetings saying, hey, why did I pay you for this, right?
I guess on some of that though is that's inevitable in 2020. So when we were, I know you're not 14, Bram. So when we were in the old days in the stores, et cetera, you could use those lines of bullshit and they would hold. Right. That store had it. It's just, display was up for a week and went down. Fucking nobody knew. right? No, because nobody went to that store, and there was no phones, and there was no pitches, and there's no nothing. So ultimately, I mean, if a retailer wants to survive, especially after this mess of COVID, because online has definitively gotten that much stronger, et cetera, they're going to have to start getting away from the worry of not complying and just bloody well comply. Like that's what you have to sell. So I don't think that should be the massive stumbling block. Yes, it will be in some retailers. But at the end of the day, the retailer is always going to win anyway, because they're just going to give the vendor shit. It'll be the vendor's problem no matter what happened.
Yeah,
so I don't think that's the issue. I think what's good about it is not going to the retailer and selling it to them, because retailers don't buy anything.
Yeah.
But the pitch, when you flip it and say your vendors should be filling this thing so you can see what the hell is going on in your stores, but it also gives you a chance to see what else is going on in other places, right?
Yeah, because retail is becoming more experiential, right? And that's a huge trend that's happening. But the analytics world hasn't changed in a material way to kind of capture what does that mean, right?
Because as a buyer and the people doing the math, I'm not looking at experiential. I look at the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
I look at the margins,
totally. It all comes
what's
down
sold.
to that.
I don't give a shit about the rest of it. And what we assume is if the numbers haven't gone down, the experience is still good. Is that valid? Probably not. But the reality,
who knows, right?
How do you want me to do analytics on the experience? How do I measure that?
Totally.
Wow.
This whole industry is just changing so fast. I mean, it already was, right? And then the pandemic hit, and now it's in like hyperspeed. So, it's just kind of like 1 week at a time, I guess, in terms of figuring it out. But it's anyone's guess. I don't think it's a good idea to jump on a podcast and try to make a future prediction of what's going to happen, because I'll end up, someone will listen to it in a couple of years and be like, that Bram guy's an idiot,
No
one listen in a couple of years to say we're idiots anyway. Don't worry about it. Don't listen to Phil. We're all going to get called idiots sooner or later.
Yeah.
It's 2020. Everybody's an idiot. Nobody says nice things anymore. It's all good.
Yeah.
I like the retailer play. Like, I like getting retailers involved. I guess my worry is that you like getting those groups to consume the data. Like I think of, Kenny, when you were a buyer, right? Like the amount of time that you spent on analytics, period, right? And the amount of time that you spent looking and reviewing is kind of like a nanosecond of time, right? Like it's kind of that like 10% strategy and 90% execution, right? And so I worry that I like the model of you should get your vendors to fill this so the retailer has it. The problem is the next question that comes out of that is when the brands go, we've been filling this thing. How do we know that the retailer's even looking at this stuff, right? Like, and then that starts to, like, that worries me more, right? Is that stuff starts to fall apart. I think the part that really interests me is how do I, brands are super smart at building intelligence and learning what they do. There's an element of this where brands are starting to go out and strike out on their own. We're seeing, brands digitize and do their own thing. And so I wonder, I wonder if mobilizing the brand with the right knowledge is the better way to go, right? Like a retailer, they're smart enough, right? If they realize that this thing is worth something, they're going to jump on. I actually think that not catering to them might actually be more worth your while, because you'll have a retailer who will wind up showing up going, listen, you're doing cool shit. How do I get in on this? Like, is there more that I can do besides just jumping in and being a user, right? So I feel like...
I think you're giving a lot of credit to retailers today.
But it's just such an interesting dynamic, because even a lot of the initial feedback was like, hey, how do we make it easier for me to capture this data and bring it into a buyer meeting? So we added, okay, you can download as a zip, you can generate a PDF report, you can even download as like PowerPoint. And that's totally the direction that we're going, is like that intersection of the relationship between the retailer and the brand, right?
I think failure, I think it's probably going to be on that side. I think that's probably where it's going to end up being. It's going to be something that a brand or I could see brokers use. I could see sales teams using things like this as well, right? Because again, it's a nice repository where you can organize. It sits there, so you could have people going out, making sure that they're taking the pictures, looking at the stuff that they're supposed to look at, the competitors. and then put things into buckets. So unsigned display, signed display, right place, things like that. I know it sounds silly, and you think that people are doing this, but they're not. I mean, they say they are, but a lot of it's not, because where do you want me to put all this shit? Everything sits on my phone or an iPad, and it just doesn't, I think I shared it. I don't remember if I shared it, where it would be, I could see it being, it's a brand or a broker side, Phil, and then going in to talk to your buyer from either level, whether you're the brand or the broker, and say, listen.
I think that's where the motivation is, right?
Yeah,
because
I
you
think
really,
it is too.
Yeah.
I think Bram and I were laughing about this when I talked to him earlier, but like those phones that, like, I know I archive photos everywhere, right? Like we archive our family photos, and I am 100% sure that in those photos, probably 30%, 40% of them are retail planogram pictures. But like some of it is, when you're rifling through pictures, even then, like you have it, and then you realize, like, oh my God, I have like 18 pictures of these really cool planograms. I don't remember where they're from. I don't even know what they were for.
I remember why I shot them.
I don't remember why I shot them, right? Like, what the hell, right? So, but I do think on the brand side, there's infinitely more possibilities, right? Like, I think on the retailer, some retailers are smarter than others. Some buyers
are
are
spoon-fed. This is a presentation. This is more of, I think, where you guys are going.
So.
This needs to be a platform where I, as a broker and or a brand, depends who's calling on the retailer, basically says, I've got this repository. I can show these people in a nice format, 60 pictures that validates whatever I want to validate. I don't care what you want to validate, but whatever story you're trying to sell, or it could be, legitimately a fix. Say, listen, hey, Bram, you said you were going to have this in 25 stores. Here it is.
Yeah.
It's not. And this is what was in those 25 stores. And you might find is if there's things sneaking in that shouldn't be in, or whatever the hell it is. I don't really care what it is, but it's just a place that it's nice that you can park stuff.
Yeah, I actually had a sales call today with a broker, and they were kind of excited about using it, not just with the retailer to show them all those things, but for their own business development, to be able to reach out to a brand and say, like, hey, here's what we're seeing in your category. If you had our services, here's what we could do.
I'm thinking of that as well.
Yeah,
I work for a distributor, right? And we're always looking for brands. If I could show you as your brand, say, Bram, I know you're with Phil's distribution, but look what he's doing, man. There's nothing going on, man. Phil's not that great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Phil, you would be awesome. I'm just kidding, right? I'm just hypothetically.
Kenny, you're cut off. That's it. I'm editing you out of the podcast now.
You can do that now. You don't threaten. I want to know how to put myself back in.
This is the last episode of your entire series, but
let him go on his own. See how much fun he has.
What the broker was telling me, though, was that their biggest issue is customer lifetime value. So brands hire them, they get distribution, they grow, and then the whole business case changes. They're gone. But if they created a stickier client relationship using technology and became an analytics source as well, even if you extend that lifetime value by a year or two, like, the upside is huge, right?
You could extend it by a lot more. The challenge what typically happens is they'll get to a size in the brand, says, well, what do I need you for?
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what you do? You sit there and look at them. Okay, how about if I do 3% instead of 4%?
Yeah, you start, you knock off half a point.
Exactly. Now it's just a monetary play as opposed to any sort of value. Well, here's why you need me. Look what I do for you, and look at the evidence and things like that. And I think that's why, like, I don't think this is specifically just a brand. It could be the ones working for the brands, like brokers, like distributors. It could also be a great tool for brokers and distributors to show other brands that, like you were just saying, why you should come to me. Here's stuff that I do, and here's stuff that, the people you might be considering using. This is, not that you want to start playing that game, but the reality is that's reality. That's how you
Yeah. So the way we've built our private collections feature is we can kind of white label it and have two brands. So you could have, as a broker, you could have like your logo and then all your different clients' logos, or we're working with one CPG company through their shopper marketing agency, and they brought it to them as a capability. So that it's interesting just navigating all the different ways of kind of bringing it to life. But we're trying to build a flexible way. Yeah.
Well, I like the rooms where you get your own private space.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Yeah.
It's really neat too. I think there's, you think of like the big guys like J&J, where we had a ton of resources, right? And we had kind of like everything at our fingertips. And even then we didn't know that much. But you think of like, you know, Kenny and I live in worlds where like a lot of these guys are, you know, between $4 and $10 million. They don't have enough for anything, right? And but
you can't afford Nielsen.
You can't afford anything.
Oh,
like
God,
literally
you're
nothing,
thinking
right?
about
Like
10 grand or 50 grand for a report.
No way.
No.
Yeah.
You know, like I think it would cost you that much just to talk to somebody at Nielsen, right? Like,
but you're agile, right? Like you can respond to changes way faster than the big guys. So knowing about kind of real time stuff is key.
Well, it evens the field a lot, right? Because now you're able to do what a J&J would do, you know, with a full field of either like reps in the field that they hired, you know, or you know, whatever. You now, like with Shelfgram, you can actually source stores and then figure it out and be able to get to you know, buyers and talk about that.
I just think you got to just feed. It's about, you got to get those. You got to feed the machine's got to be fed. You got to get a lot of pitches up here, and you got to get that part of it.
We didn't cover that part. So how do you call for, like, so let's say, you know, Kenny and I work with a customer and we would like to get more shots of our stuff.
Yes.
And Shelfgram has. How do you do that? Do we just call you?
That's a valid question. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but no, in any feed, when you're using the desktop version, there's an order now button. And it'll actually pre-populate the request for the order based on whatever filters you've got. And then that triggers an RFP process with our partners. We actually don't even take a markup on it. We'll just pass along the cost or connect you with the partner. Really? And then as soon as the photos are available, they come right into Shelfgram for you, tagged and kind of ready to go. So we have companies that say to us, you know what, like, we're going to use that feature to supplement our field sales team and cover certain areas, or we're doing a product launch and we want to surge that. And they just get shelf visibility kind of like, you know, the click of a button whenever they want.
And you don't take a markup on that at all?
No. Our business model right now is really just subscription revenue, and the free plan
smart,
is kind
young,
of just
and a good guy. What is?
No, I don't know if it's like being a good guy.
You need to be a good guy.
Kind of
let's go down.
I'm a cold-hearted capitalist, Phil, just like you.
So why are you giving it away?
But this one is, you should take a markup. Like,
why are you giving this away?
So I just got Black Friday, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Easter, like just those alone. Like, so you think of like sun care is a great one, right? Sun care, like, you know, start of sun care season. You know, the first questions that a trade marketer gets as soon as it's like 20 degrees out is, do we have our sun out? And the answer is, fuck if I know, right? Like, I have no idea. Like, yes, maybe, sure, you know, but I'm going to go hit 4 stores and I'll tell you what I find, right? But this would be one of those, right? Like, I could see like a you know, a call for order, a stage 4-week, you know, kind of blitz to pull down, like, hey, you know, sun season now, it's in full fledged. Like, at the end of 4 weeks, how many stores do I have, right? Like, I can time lapse them for you to almost map out how quickly distribution goes, right? No, exactly. And on our enterprise plans, we'll build in a certain number of sourcing credits because, you know, we're buying at scale, so we get the best rates and stuff. And it also just makes it easier because you don't need to open up a PO each time, and people on the team can get the data that they're looking for.
I guess the ease on my side, though, is I'd rather go to one place and I don't want to be rerouted to another person. I'd just rather, I'm on your site. Put a request in. I'd just rather deal with you.
Well, you know, these mystery shopping apps, their biggest challenge is top of mind awareness with all the brand folks, right, and sales folks. And what we have are users that are going, okay, show me Sobeys in Western Canada, show me frozen foods. Shoot, I can't find what I'm looking for. And that's not a good user experience for us. So that's why we added the button where, you know, it's just like, okay, well, you can't find what you're looking for, order now. And we send them sales leads, so they really like us. And then in return, you know, we get the data. So it's a really good partnership.
I still think you should try to, you gotta skim. You gotta be involved in that. Or manage it or somehow. There's got to be a way for you to do it without doing a lot, where you're sort of. I get it's all good, but I mean, really and truly, you want to you want to own a lot. You got to own all that.
Yeah.
It just locks me into
I don't
it.
know.
Just stops me from, move. I don't know.
We got to figure out our business model. Like maybe it's wrong, but the important thing right now, it's very much like a tech mindset, is just like user growth and
data.
Keeping people happy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I get it.
But figure out how to monetize later. Instead of investors, we've got users, right?
Yeah.
Don't need. Yeah.
But I would tell you that for sure. Like I would tell you that I probably have Kenny probably has more, but I have 3 brands that are under $10 million that I work with. And I think all 3 of them have seasonality to them that we probably will. I'm already thinking about like the Mutlux guys with the pet business. They do dog boots. Winter is their biggest season. I think we would definitely put in, like a bid to understand, come as soon as Halloween displays go down in PetSmart and places like that.
I was going to say November 1.
I'll want to know.
November 1 look like?
Yeah. I want to know, like, how many boots are up,
Yeah.
Because it's such a big part of their business, right? Like, happy to pay for it, right? Like, they pay for all sorts of weird crap. Like, this would be a really easy one to, gain intelligence on really quickly, right? So...
and then going into business planning for next year, it might be cool to say, okay, just show me any Halloween execution across every category, and go, well, I love what like Pepsi did at Publix in Florida 3 years ago. Okay, let's do that. Agency, can you mock something up?
Yeah.
Or it might be cool, like maybe you want to sell into a U.S. retailer, but it's hard to understand the dynamics there. To go, okay, filter pet food or pet whatever. Like, let's understand what's going on. And then show up to that sales conversation with like relevant examples showing how you could fit into their strategy.
Right.
So there's like there's 1,000 reasons why we do store checks. And the way we see it is if you can now travel back in time and go around the world, there's like 1,002. So we're seeing people use this for all sorts of kinds of things. And it's exciting. It's fun it's kind of like, it's cool to see all the wins,
No, it's very interesting.
Oh, this is super cool.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Bram, thanks for coming on.
Share it.
That's cool, man.
This was yay. I'm glad we got you on. This is really exciting. So so if people want to find you, where do they find you?
Yeah, so feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Our platform's like all about LinkedIn. You can sign up with LinkedIn as well. And if you have any like feature ideas, like message me as well. We've been, launching new features every week based on what people are asking for. So would love to hear from your listeners, just any feedback they've got on the platform.
Okay, awesome. And we'll put all of Bram's contact information in the show notes down below, and then we'll link Shelfgram as well down below, so you guys can check it out. But super cool.
Very cool.
Super cool.
Awesome.
Love it.
Thanks. Yeah.
Love it.
Kenny, Phil, thank you.
No, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Bram.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Enjoy the night. Okay. See you guys.
You too.
Ciao, ciao.
Take care. Bye. All right. That's the end of this Commerce Life. We'll be back soon with the next episode. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. Give us feedback. Tell us what you think. Subscribe, like us, join us, share us, tell your friends about us. And we hope to see you next time with more commerce news.